Alright guys, hope everyone's well and welcome back to the channel. So today we're in for my back and hamstring session. I was supposed to record legs, but I forgot the SD card on the Wednesday, which was very smart of myself. So yeah, first up we have got a bilateral lat pull down, basically doing it with two arms. And here what I'm thinking about is dragging my elbows forward and down. And also, something you don't really hear spoken about much is what's going on at the shoulder. So when we are training the lat, which is what I'm trying to train here, part of the lat's role is to depress the shoulder, move the shoulder away from the ear. It's responsible for moving the sternoclavicular joint, in other words. So here what I'm thinking about doing is, as I pull down, not just finishing here, but trying to really get those shoulders pretty low down so I can get a full contraction with my lat, and then making sure the torso remains static at all times. So enjoy the session. Any questions, fire them in the comments and I'll happily answer them. And we've next got a deficit stiff leg deadlift. So whenever you're doing a hinge, something super important is actually hinging at the hips to lower the movement. So what I see a lot of people do is the first thing that moves is their knee. We never want to move the knee first. Reason being is, if I bend my knee first, it loads the quads. Also, the bar paths off, because the bar then needs to drift forward. So whenever you're doing a hip hinge variation, the hips always move back first to initiate the movement. So last warm-up's literally just a rep, so I acclimate myself to the load I'll be lifting, but don't take away from my ability to perform with the working set. And I've recently kind of reset this movement as I hit a bit of a plateau with it. So instead of swapping it out, because I enjoy it, and I do want to get to 200 kilos on this, I instead just reset it, and I'm working in a bit of a higher rep range. Come on. Again. So deadlifts up in weight, which I'm happy with. So that went pretty well. And we're now on to the side bix row, which is an upper back focus movement. most of the handles are neutral, but you can change what you're biasing based on your cueing. So if I think about driving my elbows down to my hip, keeping them tucked into my side, it will be more lats, whereas if I cue just getting maximum movement in the shoulders, driving my upper arm back, it will be more upper back, which is what I'm trying to do today. And on this movement as well, what I'm doing is as I am rolling, I'm thinking about almost arching my back slightly, so I get more movement in my shoulders, and as a result can take my upper back through a larger range of motion. And my warm-up requirements are pretty low now, because I've done a pull down and then hip hinge variation. So my warm-up's literally like 2 reps with half of the weight I'm going to do, and then into my working set. So we've next got a single arm row on what's called HD gym equipment, but it's a knockoff version of an old machine brand called Nautilus, which is very, very nice. The only downside is it's very light, so you need to put a lot of plates on it. And here, focuses on keeping the torso still and driving your elbow to your hip. We don't want to think back or up, or when we're thinking about finishing the movement, think driving the elbow down. Because if you're kind of shifting the shoulder back in isolation, you're just using the upper back musculature. And some people may view this as not a great movement just because you're not isolating your lat. You need to worry about maintaining position with your body. You're not got a chest support, but that's also good in a sense because it means you accumulate volume, accumulate work for your rectors. And every time you isolate a muscle, you're missing out on work for something else. So yes, you might be able to get a tiny bit more out of it with a chest support, but you're also missing out on getting a lot of work in for the rectors. So let's say it's a couple of percentage less effective, that might be worth that trade-off if you're getting a decent bit of work in for your lower back, because technically if you're doing it single arm, 2 sets each arm, you're doing 4 working sets for your lower back. Obviously it's not going to be extremely taxing, but I think you get drift, it allows you to accumulate effective work. So don't think you need to isolate everything, because that means you'll need to spend so much time in the gym. And even then, you may not still accumulate the same amount of effective work. Moving on to the leg portion of the session, and next up we have a lying hamstring curl. A wee tip for you to get more out of your lying hamstring curl is try using a mat, folding it in half and placing it against your femur, or in other words your thigh. What that can do is that can put you in more hip flexion which means bend you more at the hips, which generally is a more stable position and allows you to lengthen the hamstring more. I feel like I get so much out of it by doing so, especially if you use a blind hamstring curl and the pad's not got much bend in it at the crease of your hip. I think it's a big help, so give that a wee try. And here the focus is just moving the knee joint as much as I can. We ideally want to keep everything else as stable as we can here. The reason being is, when you think about the role of the hamstring, the role we're training here anyway, knee flexion or bending the knee, means we only want the knee to move, so we only use a hamstring. You can get like a little bit of movement of the hips, that's fine, but you just don't want your hips to be all over the place, because that will take away from your ability to bias your hamstring throughout the movement and cause you to kind of use your lower back, which of course is not the goal. So when setting up for it, think about having your legs parallel, making sure your knees and feet face forward, they don't start facing out as you get tired towards the end. Keep everything else still, which you can do by crunching the core, pulling down really hard on the handles, hence the straps, and also by getting a big brace prior to the bottom position. And next I have a single leg press, and here I'm having quite like a low stance to bias my quad because my glutes are a stronger point in my physique, and you also still get a lot of glute. I'm thinking about, as I lower, driving my knee over my big toe, not out, as it usually allows more range of motion and it's more comfortable. You don't have the necessity to drive your knee out because it's single leg, and you don't need to maintain your centre of gravity like a barbell back squat. And here, I don't worry about my heel lifting a little at the bottom. Reason being is a bit of heel lift allows me to get that extra bit of range, my knee over my toe more, and to train my quad further, or for a larger range of motion. Some people argue you're less stable. I'm in a leg press. It's not like I'm shaking all about the place. I'm in quite a stable environment, so that slightly less stability it may give me, I don't think it's anything to lose sleep over. So we're moving on to the last lower body movement, which is going to be the Smith machine hip thrust. And something super important when you're performing any hip thrust variation is the role of the glutes is hip extension, or one of them. What that means is to straighten at the hips. As a result, we don't want the spine to move, so we don't want to, as we get to the bottom of the movement, arch and then thrust up. We want this core tight, so this never moves. Our core, like imagine there's a rod through your spine. That's basically what we want to do for the movement. So that the only things moving is our hips and our knees slightly, instead of letting the spine kind of relax and the core relax. And here I've only got one set. Reason being is the lower body's a wee bit stronger, same with my glutes in particular, so it frees up recovery capabilities to do more and recover more for my upper body work. The areas of my physique that's weaker. So your volume should be dictated by your strengths and your weaknesses for the most part. You shouldn't just, if you're a beginner, intermediate, it's not a bad idea spreading everything else out evenly, but if you see you've got discrepancies in your physique, you've addressed form, you've addressed effort, you can then think about your training split and how much work you're doing per body part. Doing less for your strong body parts, doing more for your weak body parts.
Come on!
So we've now got behind the body cable curl supersetted with a hanging leg raise. And the reason I use the back pads, it just makes that a bit more stable. Not that you're not going to build any muscle if you've not got the back pad, but gives you that bit more stability, especially with the hanging leg raise. Because your hips are forward, it makes it heavier in the stretch. So you can give that a try so you've got more load in the stretch, because without you get quite a big drop off in tension at the bottom and there's pretty much no load there. So instead, try having like a back pad. You can use this assisted pull-up machine or a barbell, or if you've got a dual cable stack like the one shown here, you can use the back pad there, so that's a good wee tip. And if you don't have access to like a back support for the curl, you can just do it without. It's going to be pretty much just as effective. The reason I like it is, again, maybe a tiny bit more stable, and it also just means you've got a consistent standardised setup that's not changing week in, week out, which is one of the good things about it. It makes it a bit easier to track progression in that sense. And something to also note is when you're setting up behind the body cable curl or dumbbell curl, what you'll notice is the cables aren't right at the bottom. That allows you to put a bit more load in the stretch position, which isn't a bad idea if you're doing so. Or alternatively, you can just take a larger step forward and it will allow you to load the stretch to a greater degree. So, because it's only valuable kind of getting more stretch if there's load there. Like for example, with the bottom of a dumbbell, yes, that's when you get like a full stretch, but there's no tension there, so is it really valuable? It's only valuable when there's load behind it. So we've got a myo rep set for my biceps on the rope hammer curl now. Myo rep set is basically you do a set to failure, then as much sets if you need to match reps with 30 seconds rest. So it allows you to accumulate a good bit of work, a lot of effective reps in a short time frame. And I'm quite looking forward to seeing how my arms respond to it, because I've not done the amount of work I'm doing now ever. So I've like done a lot more work than usual for my arms. I'm training both my biceps and triceps 3 times a week, so it should be exciting to see the results. and it works well when you're doing smaller body parts. So I wouldn't do this on maybe, we could, like a deadlift or a hack squat. I'd do it more on like your smaller body parts that are a bit easier to recover from, and use it a bit more sparingly on the big exercises, because you don't want the cardiovascular demand of the movement being the limiting factor. We want the limiting factor when we're doing certain lifts to be the actual muscle itself. And then partials, and then I am doing isometric hold in the stretch, just to again accumulate more work, accumulate more volume, since I can recover from it, because I've not got any arm work or bicep work until Tuesday, and today's obviously Saturday.